Hello and welcome back to Kidocracy at Large. I am Siddhan Chandra, here every other Saturday to address current events in the light of Kidocracy, which is a call for the rule of minors and minorities through collective movements and individual actions aimed at adults and the majority to combat adult supremacy and majoritarian fascism. I saw this Danish film, 70 by 30, in the Planet in Focus Festival about how the children of Denmark changed their government in 2019. The title of the film, 70 by 30, refers to the new government's promise to bring down carbon emissions by 70% by the year 2030. In the next 9 years, a big promise from a pioneering country on climate action, considering Denmark leads in oil production in Europe. So how will the two new youthful ministers, Dan Jorgensen and Ida Auken, make good on the promise of 70% reduction by 2030, considering that the previous conservative government has licensed oil extraction till the year 2052? While the adults argue about jobs and carbon tax, children agitate outside, keeping up the heat on the elected officials to keep their promise. Because, as a child clarifies, adults are thinking in short spans. What will get them back into power in 4 years? And it is only children who are thinking long term. The takeaway scenes for me were where Ida Auken meets with the climate activists and thanks them for keeping up the agitation, for holding the government's feet to the fire to make good on their promise. And in another meeting with adults, takes them to task. We cannot leave it to a 16-year-old, she says. Adults have to take action. This alignment of adults and children to address the climate emergency through a movement led by children exemplifies kidocratic education. This sea change among Danish adults to follow children exemplifies the fourth value of kidocratic education: minoritarianism. What is minoritarianism? Minoritarianism, or becoming minor, is a currently very relevant philosophical concept developed by Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari. They criticize the concept of majority as follows. The majority in a government presupposes the right to vote, and not only is established among those who possess that right, but is exercised over those who do not, however great their numbers. Similarly, the majority in the universe assumes as pre-given the right and power of man. In this sense, women, children, but also animals, plants, and molecules are minoritarian. Initially, only men had the vote, and after several decades of women fighting for it, women got the vote. But children, animals, plants, and microorganisms are never going to get the vote. So what is needed is for those who have the vote and can affect change to align themselves with the desires of those who do not have the vote, namely children and animals and plants. All life forms who do not have a voice. That is minoritarianism. For Deleuze and Guattari, becoming minoritarian is the ethical action to take to avoid becoming fascist. Therefore, it is encouraging to see how Danish adults change their minds, align themselves with their children in order to bring about a responsible government that would take responsible climate action. This was in 2019. Let us compare how the adults of Canada, China, and India dealt with the youth activists of their own countries. In Canada, in 2019, there was an election as well. And despite massive rallies and protests by young climate activists, Canadian adults chose to put Trudeau back in the driver's seat. Trudeau walked in the climate rally, met Greta Thunberg. He also wept photogenic tears for the murdered Indigenous children in the residential school system. But he prioritized a pipeline and oil extraction, endangering both the Indigenous people and the climate. In China, it is worse. Oh Hongwei, called the Greta Thunberg of China, has been ignored, ridiculed, and ostracized by the Chinese school system and harassed by the police. According to the New York Times, when she joined the global climate strike on September 25, 2020 in Shanghai, she was detained and questioned for several hours by the police. And in India, Disha Ravi, a young climate activist from Bangalore, was arrested under the sedition law, which denies bail for perfectly legal activities of sharing documents to collaborate with the striking Indian farmers also facing climate catastrophe. It was thanks to a forward-thinking judge who recognized her work to be of vital importance for a vibrant democracy that she was offered bail. Question is how India, a democratic country, has been crushing student activism, especially at the university level. In a film called Campus Rising, the historian Romila Thapar talks about the ancient practice of Kutuhala Shalas, meaning curiosity schools, operating in ancient Indian cities. She bemoans the loss of such forums in contemporary India and points to the promotion of science and technology at the expense of arts and humanities as the reason for that loss. Because a focus on technology without ethics or creativity leaves us a labor force that can be manipulated to follow orders, since it is unable to think creatively or engage democratically. That way, India has created a technocratic elite that lives in a bubble of its own, whereas the self-emancipated children of the global north are proficient in science as well as artistic expression and ethical action, vis-a-vis the million species at risk of extinction in nature and the suffering humanity of the global south, where the bottom part of the 99% live. Most climate activist children have spent time outdoors, so they understand when trees and animals were lost to forest fires and took appropriate ethical action. The next 9 years are crucial for all our future. So the sooner the planet's adults align themselves with the children, the better, especially for the global south, where rising temperatures will make huge areas unlivable. So if you're wondering what the adults of Canada, India, and China could do to become minoritarian, like the Danish adults, the answer could well be that parents and teachers promote STEAM education as against STEM. STEM education, as you may already know, prioritizes science, technology, engineering, and math. A solid course to take if you're looking for rock-solid jobs. But STEAM education, and there is a movement for it going on, integrates arts and humanities into that curriculum, thereby promoting an education that thinks outside the box of technology and solid jobs, to develop artistic and democratic muscle, to be able to deal with the challenges of the future. One could say the STEM to STEAM educational movement is educating adults to accommodate the creativity of children, to accommodate and emulate the ethical responsibility displayed by the planet's children. STEAM education movement shows the success of kidocratic education, the success of Fridays for Future movement, in which children taught the adults. What else could adults do to become minoritarian? Please do share in the comments section. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.